Now, the federal government on Tuesday listed its 100 billion naira worth of sovereign Sukuk on the FMDQ OTC securities exchange. The ethical instrument, which is deemed the biggest in Africa, clearly has great appetite. The reason why it was listed on the FMDQ OTC and subsequently same day listed on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. And the Director General of the Commission, Ms. Patience Oniha, tells us how much of financial inclusion the listing is expected to drive.
Okay, for the federal government, really, it is like saying, while we are trying to raise money to fund developmental projects, infrastructure, roads obviously are part of it. While we're doing that, we're also taking into account the needs of the investment needs of various segments of the Nigerian community. Okay, so there are people who would not invest in conventional instruments. So this it's more like a win-win, good for government, but good for the people. So, but let me quickly say that while we say that one of the objectives was financial inclusion, getting more people into the financial market, because it's when you do that the monies flow into the system, then monetary policy and other policies of government, will become more effective in terms of the results they achieve. But we really offered it to the general public. It wasn't to targeted people. And from the list of investors we saw, it was very diverse, very diverse. It wasn't targeted at one region or one segment or one age bracket. So to that extent, that is significant for us.
But do you think the financial inclusion objective has really been achieved? Because it is only 4% of the subscription that came from the retail side of investors, as against 96% from institutional investors and the pension income.
Okay, when we talk about the 4% that are retail, so we're talking of per single investors. But really, if you're looking at institutions, there were some institutions and foundations. So leave out the pension funds and the asset managers that would invest anyway in the conventional market. There were institutions we saw in the list. So we have a full subscriber list that tells us there were institutions included and who would probably not invest in the conventional market. So it's not only the individual we're talking about here, but our joy also is to be able to attract the retail investor, even in our conventional bond market. So that's why we highlighted that 4%.
Do we really have a strong future for the Sukuk market or non-interest financing in Nigeria with these figures and statistics that we have?
I think what this tells us is that there's a market, there's an appetite. Okay, so we spent time sensitizing. As you know, we had a roadshow and sensitized people. In fact, let me quickly add that by the time the offer closed, there was still a long list of people who wanted to invest. Some sent us letters to say, I'll make money available to you on so date. So clearly there's even some appetite that we couldn't meet because we work with the approvals that we get. So approval was 100 billion and we did it. So what I'm saying, already there are investors that are waiting, for us to issue another one, or maybe they can buy from the secondary market now. So there is appetite. I think what we'll do collectively, and that's also where the media comes in, is to sensitize Nigerians about the product. And you've seen the roads, they're all over Nigeria. Okay, the roads are all over Nigeria, so we're all beneficiaries. It's to continue with that sensitization while we work as well towards doing what we need to do.
Just finally, will there be reopening? It's just a 7-year program as well.
Okay, this is a specific bond for specific roads. Okay, so the Sukuk, it's usually tied to an asset. If it's trading, it's usually tied. If we decide to reopen, it means we're going to add new projects into it to get that new specific projects that new amount would accommodate. And it could also be a new issue by itself.
Of course, the Sukuk is the first of its kind to be listed on the FMDQ OTC, where price discovery and transparency play a key role. Both the exchange and the issuing house, FBN Merchant Bank, expects the listing to drive some liquidity for the capital market. Let's listen to their own side of the story.
This is the first sovereign Sukuk listed on FMDQ, and like many firsts, it's like a symbol of, if you will, progression, hope. And one of the things that was said earlier, with the DMO launching this Sukuk, it means it is paving the way for others paving the way for corporate. So the DMO does it, the federal government does it and does it well, and everyone else that follows suit is able to learn from that. And what happens is we have a deeper market. We have more Sukuk, we have more investable securities. But what is that doing? Because what are the funds doing? It's helping develop the Nigerian economy. It's helping develop our infrastructure. And what does that mean for the layman? We have better roads. We have better infrastructure in general in the country, and it's all in all, it is better for the economy, it's better for the country, better for Nigeria, and better for its citizens. So with FMDQ, because our part is to support the development of the markets, this is just fantastic for us and wonderful for us. It's been a long time coming, and as the DG had spoken of earlier, they've started using the proceeds to do what it says they were going to do with it, and build and develop roads.
It's quite significant because it's the debut federal government Sukuk bond, and we leveraged on our extensive distribution capacity to distribute about 65% of the entire bond. We, of course, are one of the advisors. We sponsor the listing on FMDQ. We, are happy we are honored to be a part of this listing process. Of course, this is the second Sukuk transaction that we'll be involved in. We were involved in the first subnational Sukuk, and now we're involved in the first sovereign Sukuk. So it's a good thing for us as an institution.
What does this tell you about the future of Sukuk?
Absolutely. The interest is great. The entire subscription was 106%. That was 6% of a subscription, which means there is appetite. So we expect several issuances to come up in the future. And then we expect this should be one of the largest domestic Sukuk issuance markets, in and around Africa and the rest of the world.
Those are the issuing parties to the listing of the federal government sovereign Sukuk on the FMDQ, OTC, as well as on the Nigerian Stock Exchange during the course of the week. We told you earlier that there are events for you to watch out for in the capital market space this week. Some of them, again, include the NSE migration of 4 companies, which are Access Bank, Seplat, as well as United Bank for Africa and Lafarge, to the premium board of the NSE. That will be happening on Monday. The NASD OTC, representing the unquoted securities market, looks to launch its NASDEP. NASDEP is an acronym for the NASD Enterprise Portal. That is going to be taking place on Monday as well. And you should watch out as well for the NASD OTC first quarter market review, scheduled for the 27th of this month. So, with that, we'll bring the show to a close. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. Thank you for watching. I wish you a lovely weekend. I'm Temple Ashaju. I'll see you again next time.